What's up, boys? So I went to Biltema and bought all the shit that we need for the swap that I showed you in the end of the last video. So I have everything out here and I thought we should start out doing the fuel pump. So I actually went yesterday and picked out this fuel pump from a 940 gas tank that my friend had, or actually pulled the whole sender unit. But he had it by his shop. This pump wasn't working though, so that's a shame, can't use that. But I found this pump at Biltema. This is the number if you want to get one yourself. It's a bit larger than the OEM one. This is 220 liters per minute, and you get this whole kit with you with the filter and everything, so basically like an aftermarket fuel pump. And this thing should be all the fuel that we need to run this car. So I'm thinking we should pull the whole sender unit out of this car, see what it looks like and how we solve our fuel problem. Then we have a lot of shit to do, got a lot of stuff here, but we'll get to that later. Let's start on the pump. So after pulling the fuel sender unit out of the car, I recognized that this wasn't going to work. So this is now my old fuel sender unit, which I rebuilt to fit a fuel pump and etc. This is the one from the 740 that had injection. Yeah, so this has the cable going to the fuel level sensor and to the fuel pump. But the problem is that there's a big line for fuel out and fuel in right here. And these don't fit the OEM hoses, which I did want to use. You could make a quick connector if you have a lathe or something like that. I don't. So I had to figure something else out. So I took this old unit. This pipe in the old unit was like this, so it had a bit of a bend, so I just cut that part off. Then I realized I had to cut some more off, but I cut some off so I could fit this part from the injection engine. Remember, this is the carbureted fuel sender unit. Then I took this pipe that was for fuel out of here, which is this thing that I cut off. This is what it looked like before. And then also had this unit on it for level and for then a little pre-filter for the fuel. So it sat like this. So I cut that off and I just fitted the fuel line like this. This is just a return, so this doesn't need a hose. Fitted the new full fuel pump here, and fits kind of good. I don't know if you need this thing to make it sit right, I don't know. This is what looks like just OEM. I just wanted it a bit more secure since this pump is a lot bigger than the original one. But I made that fit, but then I needed some connections for the cable, since this one only came with these very small cables for the fuel level. Then I remembered I have some pass-throughs for electricity made for this kind of deal. This is more made if you want to build a fuel cell. So these use O-rings to not have fuel leaking out, and also this plastic to make it so that the electricity doesn't make connection with the housing itself. Really nice. So then I just made two holes here where I saw that they fitted the best, and now I have a plus right here and a minus right here. So now I have a full working unit that can actually fit with the original hoses, which is nice. Some of you might be wondering now, aren't these too small to handle the amount of fuel that I need? That might be a problem if you're running like a high horsepower turbo setup, but for me the amount of power that I'm going for, which is maybe 10 or 20 more horsepower than it has stocked with the NA engine, I don't think that this will be a big issue. If it is, we can see it in the ECU, and we might change out to this sort of setup later. But right now, this is what I could mock up with all I have in the shop, and I guess I'll save this for a later day. But now the unit is done. The last thing I'm actually going to do is I want to etch in, or I don't know how I'll do it, but I'll do like a minus and a plus here, so I know which one goes to which, so you can plug in the cables from the car. is nice. So I'll plug this in and we'll see what it looks like. So finally done with the fuel pump. It's all in and good, but man, that took a lot more time and effort than I initially thought. Screwed it all back in. So now I just have the power and the ground for the fuel pump up through this thing. We'll need to wire that up when I get my aftermarket ECU shit in the mail. But at least now it's ready for fuel injection. So I actually tried the pump out with the battery. I put power to the pump directly via that, and some fuel squirted out from, where's the hose now? From this hose. So seems to work out really nice. The pump wasn't too loud either, so it shouldn't be a hassle riding in the car with the pump on. And yes, it's pretty late now, but yeah, I'm kind of in a rush trying to get this 740 all put together. I want to drive it again. So we're just gonna start crossing shit off the list before we get the wiring harness. So next up, we'll change out the spark plugs on the engine. So I went with some NGK BPR6ES. These are really nice for B230s that don't have a boost. If you have boost, you want the 7s, not the 6s. So I'm just gonna put that in this thing. I'm not going to gap them. From what I found, NGK plugs are always gapped real nice from factory, and to be honest with you, I don't know what the gap should be. I don't really think it matters too much for the horsepower we're going for, and also it being an NA engine. Change out these crusty boys for some brand new ones. Let's go. So we got the new plugs in. Hell yeah. This is the old ones. A-lines, so these are from Biltema as well. I don't usually buy these, but I guess they're alright. So now I need to find something else to do, and I'm kind of thinking we should put the engine in, boys, because I think we're at a point in time where that would be a smart decision. So I guess let's put the engine in. No, fucking hell was that a shit show. But finally, I got the engine in the car, sitting on both engine mounts, and one of the bolts for the trans is in. Whew, everything's good, but normally on engine hoists you have this thing so you can decide like how much the engine leans and whatever. I don't have that, so I use like 2 extra ratchet strap. Anyway, we don't have one of those, so I just used 2 extra ratchet straps to lean up the engine a bit. It's a lot harder to do this by yourself than it is to do with like a mate or a couple of mates. Yeah, this was not very fun, but at least now the engine is in, it's sitting right. I just wanted to show you guys this freaking shit show trying to get the engine in, but it's all in there and it's ready to make some power. I was about to say, but this thing won't make power for shit. It's ready to be run at least. So I think I'm going to get rid of some stuff and clean up here a bit, get rid of the engine hoist, and I'll be back to you guys soon. So a lot has happened since the last clip. In the last clip you saw me put the engine in the bay, and now we're pretty much finished with everything in the bay. We just have to do the wiring harness for the ECU mount, fuel pump, and some small stuff like that. And I actually took the time to do everything off camera. There was a lot to do and I really need to get this finished. But since you missed all of this, I was just thinking that I should walk you guys through what I've done, show you how everything works. So what I did next was I took this wiring harness. There were 2 extra cables that weren't used for anything, so I snipped them off. Then also that speaker wire that ran into that harness and also to the charge light on the alternator, and you really need that for the alternator to work, but I redid it so it's routed via that red cable right there into the car right here. So it looks a lot more tidy than having cables running everywhere for your car. Then after that I did the harness thing for the auxiliary lights up here and also the fronts. So I ran it down here into the engine bay, even used this nice kind of sleeve. Cleaned it up a bit in here with the relay and the grounds and everything, so I actually think looks kind of good, so that's nice. Then I put the exhaust on, new gaskets, I put the cooling system on, and then I pressure tested it with this nice pressure tester from Max Speeding Rods, very sponsored, but works really good, so everything's airtight, not leaking at all, very nice. Then I changed out the oil in the engine and the oil filter, so we have brand new fresh oil in the engine. I decided to put the intake on, so new gasket there. I also did remove the idle air control valve, like the thing that fixes your idle, because I'm not going to run with that. I'm just going to set the throttle a bit open and then set in the ECU so that it doesn't think that it's open and we have some kind of idle. But with doing that you lose a very big bracket, and I wonder where I put that thing. But yeah, you lose this big thing. So I think that is nice, because the idle air control thing can't break if you don't have one, and now I don't. And I also tied this up the bay, so I had to plug off this hose right here. Then I took and plugged off this hole right here too, ran vacuum to the master, to the brake master, capped off this thing. I'd really want like these kind of caps, but I don't have any in the shop, so I have to use this Haggard solution, but should work all right. I did that, filled up the power steering fluid, everything's bolted in, gearbox and all the stuff. I did put the fuel filter here for ease of access, just ran fuel in here, then fuel in goes into the rail right here, because I had made, look at this shit, I made this special hose at a place to fit directly bolt on the stock fuel rail, but apparently they messed up the threads and got them wrong, so I actually cut off the fuel rail, or the fuel in on the fuel rail right here. Then I used the flare tool to flare it a bit, and I put this hose on, and I've tried all of this with the fuel pump on and we have no leaks, so we should be all good to go. Then fuel out to the return, it's just the same line as before, just ran that, and that's pretty much it. I just bolted a bunch of things together. The one thing that I would like to say is that this sensor for the trigger, yeah, you can see it right there, the flywheel sensor thing. You have to put that on before, or at least you have to put the mount on for it before you actually put the engine in the gearbox. I think on the 940 with the M90 gearbox you can do it afterwards, but with the M47s you cannot put that on after you've put the gearbox on. And I took it off because they're really easy to break, so I actually had to go underneath the car, back off the transmission like 2 centimeters or something to get that mount to fit. But now it's on, everything's good, and we're kind of just good to go. We just have to get the package from Engdahl Motorsports. And guess what I have right here? Whoa-bang! So I've set up this table kind of for wiring. Gonna tidy this up a bit, open this box and start working on the wiring harness for the new ECU. But you guys will have to see that in the next vlog. So I've been kind of stressed out working on this car. I need to get this finished before the weekend so I can actually use it again, because I want a new daily. But I've been trying to cover everything, and if there's something that I haven't covered, which one of you wants to know, you can just write it down in the comments, and I'll try to respond to everybody and all of the questions you might have. But other than that, I really want to tear into this box right the fuck now. So if you like this, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to leave a comment down below and say something. It really helps me out. If you want to check out the Instagram or Patreon page, links are down below as well. And other than that, I just wish you all a great happy day. Get stoked for the next episode, boys, and we're gonna get the car started again. Hell yeah.
Yo, I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see us